Hello and welcome back to the Star Family Wisdom podcast. I'm Jenna Layden, the founder of Star Family Wisdom and also a former global vice president for Whole Foods Market. And I'm so glad you are here today. This podcast is all about paradigm busting conversations. And Star Family Wisdom is a paradigm shifting community and modern day mystery school for your spiritual and cosmic evolution. So our intention is to provide you resources and tools and conversations like these that will support you on your journey. I know for myself, years ago, as I was starting to have supernatural experiences occur, starting to understand more about my reality, the nature of ET contact, how consciousness works in our universe. It was a lot to take in. It was a lot to integrate and to understand. And I wish I had had this sort of resource. And in today's episode with Lisa Campion, we talk about that thing. We talk about how Lisa became a psychic and counselor and mentor for people in their psychic development because she wished she had had that when she was having her experiences. Lisa is an accomplished author of 2 books. She has written Energy Healing for Empaths and the Art of Psychic Reiki. She is a Reiki Master and, like I said, a counselor for people who are on their psychic development journey or just maybe learning how to tune into or tap into those abilities, or for people who have heightened abilities and they need to learn how to manage those. So Lisa is a fantastic resource and support system for any of you out there who are having that sort of experience. And so we bring you this conversation today as selfishly, something we wanted to talk about, but also for all of the people who are awakening and being presented with new information, or maybe starting to access gifts they didn't know they had. And many of you out there are having your own experiences. You've connected with spirits or with ancestors or with ETs. And what we need to do collectively is really learn how to cultivate our abilities, how to raise our vibration. We talk about that. We talk about how it's so easy to start to dabble in the world of magic or in the world of connecting with other intelligences before you've really done the healing and transformation work to allow yourself to do that in a really protected way. So we talk about raising your vibration and creating spiritual protection so that you can access these other realms, access other intelligence in a way that is going to be really supportive for you. Lisa also talks about her experience with Reiki and energy healing and some of the miracles that she has experienced. And we talk about empowerment and how it is so important that as we are learning about energy and this world of spiritual connection that is available to us, that we are also working on developing our personal empowerment as beings, as souls, as sovereign people who are here to make decisions, who are here to be on the hero's journey throughout life. And so we talk really holistically about how we can develop ourselves and develop our connection with more beyond the physical. So I'm really excited for you to hear from Lisa. I think you're going to really appreciate her grounded and holistic approach to these topics and to how she supports people. So if you feel called to have a one-on-one session, you can find her information in the show notes. She also offers courses and workshops that will help you in community develop your gifts and start to learn more about the world of energy and psychic abilities. So Lisa's a great mentor and resource, and we had so much fun in this conversation. And I'm going to be booking a session with her too, because as we're on this journey, no matter where we're at in that journey, we can always use support. And I talk in this episode about some of the healing work that I've been doing and some of the past life, I call it excavation, that has been ongoing for me, and some of the deeper work that has started to take place this year. And as we progress and as we go through our cycles of healing, it's important to realize and remember that that never ends. We are always going to be on that journey. And so no matter where you're at in that journey, getting the right support, whether that's through our courses and programs or booking a one-on-one session with someone like Lisa or myself, is so supportive for you to be able to unlock more of who you truly are. So without further ado, we'll get into the episode with Lisa. Don't forget to like and subscribe so that you don't miss any of our content and so that YouTube shares it with more people. And thank you for dropping so many awesome comments and telling us what you're finding exciting and inspirational about these conversations. It's been so fun to be in community with all of you and to get to know you over our comments. So we'll talk to you on the other side. Please enjoy this fun conversation with Lisa and start to tap into your gifts a little more, because they're there. You have them. Even if you think you don't, they are natural in all of us, and Lisa can support you in that. So we'll see you on the other side. So Lisa, it's so good to have you here today and to chat a little about your journey and your work. Sinead and I are both passionate about the world of energy, psychic connection, understanding how to access those gifts, as we've been on our own journey of allowing those gifts to unfold and figuring out how to tap into them, how to manage them. We were super excited to chat with you because we know you have tons of experience in this space and can be a great resource for our audience and our community as well. So I want to just start with, how did you get into the world of psychic development and psychic counseling? What led you to this place that you're in today?
Oh, thanks so much for asking me that question. I was super happy to be here. Thanks for having me on your beautiful podcast. I was really one of those, like, I see dead people kids. And I was born in the 60s, so when I was right outside Boston, and it was a very odd thing to be a psychic back then. And I didn't know anybody else that was having the same experiences that I was having. And I was an empath child, so I was feeling everything, but I'm also a visual psychic. So I was seeing spirits, seeing energy around people, seeing people's auras and energy around plants was especially powerful for me. My parents were hippies, and my mom had this like big organic garden in the backyard, and I'd go out there and I could see the plants kind of go whoom, whoom, like a glow and pulse, and I'd be like, do you see that? And no, nobody else ever saw that. And Murphy's Law, it's like, my house was super haunted. It's like a big old Victorian house, the house I grew up in, and it was just, I eventually came to realize I think it was haunted because I lived there, and little mediumistic children. Yes, like, we're ghost magnets, right? With people who have psychic ability. And I really just spent a lot of time trying to, first of all, pretend to be normal in public. And because I didn't, even when I was really little, I was like way too young to know what that meant, but I was like, I'm not going to the mental hospital, So that's what happened to people in the 60s, 70s, when I was really thrashing through this stuff. It wasn't cool. There were no psychics on TV. There were no New Age bookstores. There was no podcasts, no internet. There was nothing. There was zero. So a lot of what I did was sort of survival, just trying to figure out how to learn it. I had some luck, which my parents were hippies. They took me to transcendental meditation when I was 10, because that's what you do. It's what you did when you were a hippie in 1974.
Yeah.
And so I learned how to meditate. I learned, then they were kind of spiritual seekers, my parents. So we did this thing called Silva mind control back in the real early 80s. It's called the Silva method now. And it's brilliant stuff. That's when I heard about guides. That's when I sort of began to get like a language or vocabulary for the experiences that I was having. And when I was really little, well, probably 12, I think I was 12, the year the movie Poltergeist came out. And I saw, my parents wouldn't let me go, but my friend and I went, even though our parents told us we couldn't go. And there was this sort of pivotal moment for me where there's Zelda, the professional psychic. And I remember being 12 years old and going, you can do that. Like that's the thing you can do. I'm like, I'm gonna be that. I'm gonna do that. And I made the decision that, and then she gives this little blurb about like what happens, why ghosts happen and what you can do to cross them over. And I was like, oh my God, thank you, somebody, for explaining this to me. And it began sort of my long lasting love of paranormal movies. And a lot of my paranormal education came from watching horror movies and ghost stories. And it was maybe 50% of it was legit, and the other 50% it was like Hollywood craziness. But
isn't it wild how so many of those movies too were so spooky and scary back then? But I love that was your takeaway from that movie, rather than getting all wrapped up in the scary parts of the paranormal. You were wanting to like engage in the part that you felt you were connected to. That wasn't.
I got a little nugget of information.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? And then I used to drag my friends with me to see these paranormal movies because I'd be like, see, it's like a thing. It's not just me, and like I was told I had a good imagination. But anyway, all this led me to, I started actually working as a psychic when I was 19. And that was 1980 something, way in the way back, and I don't know, like you just think you can do things when you're 19. Like that was it. That's what I decided I was going to do. And that's what I did, and it was definitely a trip. Nobody was doing it back then. It was really quite odd,
You were like a pioneer in this space. I mean, I just have so much appreciation for people like you who just did blaze ahead in this industry, I guess it is now, but back then, like you were just like trying to learn about who you were and what was possible. And that takes a lot of bravery, in a world like the one we're living in.
Oh my God, I know, totally. And, I just did it. It was hard and I did thrash around through all of it, but I also had a lot of lucky breaks, like I studied with a shaman when I was in my early 20s, and, I was kind of the dawn of the new age. God bless the new age in a way. I'm not much of a new ager actually, but I appreciated the, now there were books and workshops and things like that, other people talking and writing about it. So, but I just did have to figure it all out. I did house clearings in the 90s, way back before anyone was doing it. And, when you learn things the hard way, you learn it really good. You just thrash around, make all the mistakes. And then I feel quite passionately now about helping other people. I think my sweet spot is training psychics, healers, and empaths to really fully step into their gifts, because I think the world needs all the healers it can get. And it's really sweet for me to be able to help somebody else who's just emerging in their gifts to do it the easy way. It was a bit scarring, truthfully, and I had some PTSD from some of my experiences. And so if I can help somebody go an easier path than what I had to do, that's really so sweet for me. It's like, why? And I wrote the books I couldn't find in the library. I created the classes that I wish I had. I became the mentor that I was looking for. And there is something really sweet and satisfying about being able to do that.
Yeah. I feel really similarly in that way. I didn't start having my experiences really like kind of activate and my abilities turn on until I was 30. And so I was, very much kind of in the mainstream and an atheist for the majority of my life until I started doing mine. And it can be weird and kind of scary. And you don't really know what to do with some of it at first. And so I just have so much appreciation for you being being a guide for people in that, because that's what I was looking for, when I
Yeah.
first started having those experiences. And maybe you can share a bit about how you support people in that. If someone is just starting to have experiences and they're like, whoa, what is happening? I'm hearing things, I'm seeing things, or I'm getting, intuition about things in my life that then are coming true. How do you guide someone in that process to make it not overwhelming and to help them integrate all of that?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I find there's a couple things usually we have to do is sort of address the fears. That fear is something that comes up a lot right away for people, and kind of talking that through, working that through, and then examining what they are. Like maybe we're afraid we're going crazy. We're afraid other people are going to think we're going crazy. We're going to see bad things. A lot of people had really psychic childhoods and shut it down hard because they had to, or because they had a bad experience. And then I always say yoga, Reiki, meditation. These are the trifecta of activities that we do that open our psychic ability, and so you do a little yoga, you do some meditation, you get trained in Reiki, and all of a sudden the skills you pushed away when you were a child sort of re-bloom, and I think it's a beautiful thing because I believe there's purpose to it all. It's meant to be part of our toolkit. It's part of our life purpose to guide us through our own life and also help us assist other people in all the ways that we do that. So I think we have to work through fear. What were you afraid of when it came up for you?
I think what you said about being afraid of, one, being crazy, and then two, what are other people going to think? Those were the two big ones for me, and especially coming from a mainstream career in corporate America where I was a leader for so many years, then needing, at a soul level to really step into who am I, who am I truly, and to honor what was happening and to not just shun it. That was a big journey of shedding that fear. So that's spot on from my experience.
Yeah. I think it's fear. And I think a lot of misconceptions, because, a lot of us get our information about psychics from the media.
Right.
So we're like, oh my God, I've watched 8 million horror movies. I know what happens to the psychic.
Exactly.
It's never good. Right. So the poor psychic is always the one who gets eaten by the haunted house or something,
Yeah, it's like, I don't want to see ghosts just yet.
No, I know. So we kind of have to undo, so normalizing it, right? Taking us out of the myths and misconceptions, a Hollywood version of psychics, and normalizing it. It's very much part of our birthright as humans. I'm not sure we really would have made it as humans if we didn't have these, skills. This sort of very natural. It's very natural. It's very normal. There's nothing evil about it. It's not from the devil, and sometimes we have parents that I've worked with so many parents. If they didn't take you to the mental hospital, they took you to church and had the priest throw holy water on you, to cast the demons out. Or I think people that come from your side of the fence where it's sort of more logical, analytical, maybe agnostic, have kind of this earth-shaking moment when we have to rearrange our concept of reality to include this other world that we don't know anything about. And if we believe in angels, does that mean we have to believe in demons? Does that mean, what is it opening the door to changing the way that we view the cosmos, And that can be this kind of disorienting moment where you're like, well, it's fun in theory, and then suddenly it gets real, and you're like, ah!
Exactly. It's like everything I was told that wasn't real is actually real.
Right. And what does that mean?
So many people are going through that these days. I think we are connecting, with so many people who are joining the community every day who are saying, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I found, my kids have these abilities and I'm trying to learn about them, or my worldview is, completely changing because of what I'm learning about, ETs or whatever it is. And I think, so many people are having these just kind of cracking open experiences that are forcing us to rearrange things. And I love what you talk about around, psychic abilities being normal, being a part of our human capabilities. It is part of our faculty, consciousness standpoint, and everyone can work with that. It's not just for people who see spirits or have, even more heightened, psychic abilities, everyone can start to access some of these very natural gifts. And it sounds like you work with people on that level to help just turn on what is already there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's really two types of people that come to me. There's one that's having the sudden psychic opening or the sudden spiritual opening, and they are like, "Oh my God, this is happening, and I need a little help to turn it off." You
Yeah.
know? And then I have other people who are wanting to turn it on,
Yeah.
that wanting to develop and train this. They have an interest in it, or they've had a few experiences and now they're trying to figure out what their gifts are. And I really see this as more like a very natural human ability, like musical ability or athletic ability. It's really a bit like a muscle, you
Yeah.
know? And when, there's one of the misconceptions that people have is that you're born psychic. I mean, I was born, we all were, in a way, born quite psychic. And like you don't have to do any work, like somehow you're just magically psychic, but that's not the case. So it's like musical ability or athletic ability. Even people who who are very accomplished, especially people who are very accomplished psychics, work at it. It's you have to take lessons, you have to study, you have to practice, you have to work with a mentor, you have to put time into it. Just you could have the musical ability of Mozart, but if you never took a lesson or practice, you're not going to get very far. So we can develop it with these sort of systematic approaches. I like a system. So I created a method really that for teaching psychic development that seems to work on everybody, as long as you put your time in.
What does that method consist of, if you're willing to share?
Sure. Yeah. I think it's sort of there's three things that we really need. We need a certain knowledge set. So we need to know some kind of like metaphysical, like cosmological things of like for the context of what we're to make sense of what we're seeing or
Right.
experiencing. We need to have practice. So we need knowledge and we need practice. And that those practice can be in a group setting or with a teacher or with another person. And we need to have a community, that we belong to, because a lot of us have spent time hiding this, be feeling really alone, not feeling like we can talk about it, or not being sure who we can talk to it, who's safe to sort of share our experiences. And well, I think that part of that community is we probably need a teacher, guide, or a mentor, and when you have those things, the right information set, the right practice, and the right community, and anyone can do it.
I love that. That's a really good way to look at just your life holistically in terms of the support systems that you need in place to navigate
Yeah.
like all aspects of life's journey too. So I love that you offer that for people. And you mentioned Reiki a few minutes ago. And for those who maybe aren't as familiar with Reiki, I know you're a Reiki master. So I'd love for you to share a little bit about what is Reiki and how do people use that in
Sure.
a healing practice or even just in their own personal lives.
Yeah. So, when I started working, when I was really young, I quickly learned I didn't have enough skills. So I studied counseling and psychology, and I worked as a therapist combining psychic and therapy for years and years. Then like 20 years ago, it was 1999, I really started seeing colors around people, or feeling like I was tapping into people's energy in a different way. And I was trying to figure out what it was. And back then, Reiki was still pretty fringe, and one of my friends said, you should study Reiki. So I did. And Reiki is a really gentle, hands-on energy healing technique from Japan. It's sort of like acupuncture without needles. And it's since 1999, when I learned it, it's become much more mainstream. So I live in New England, and here in New England, all the hospitals here in Boston, we have some of the best hospitals, arguably, in the world. All of them have Reiki, full-time Reiki staff in the hospitals. There are 800 hospitals in the United States that offer Reiki as part of their complementary and alternative medicine units. So it's gained a lot of mainstream recognition as a healing modality that brings pain relief. It's used pre and post surgically. It's used in at Dana-Farber Cancer Institute for people which is the best cancer institute in the world, I think, and it's in Boston. And people are there who are receiving cancer treatments can have Reiki because it's been proven to lessen the side effects of chemotherapy. And a lot of people, use it for anxiety relief, depression, stress relief, and that kind of thing. And the best thing in my mind about Reiki is that it's so easy to learn. So anyone can learn it, and then you can do it on yourself. So that's like, surprisingly, there are surprisingly few healing modalities that have self-healing as part of it. And Reiki is one of that. So I find Reiki it's like everyone should know it, really.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially if we
Yeah.
can do it for ourselves, not
Do for
need
yourself.
someone else, always with
Yeah.
us. And my understanding is it really is just about learning how to work with energy and to move energy into the right places, to shift energy in the body and the
Yeah.
field. Is that true? That's kind of the
It is
general
true. Yeah.
process.
Yeah. So you learn how to tap into this universal life force energy. So the energy that surrounds us. And so you're not using your own energy when you're doing Reiki, you're tapping into this universal life, this unlimited supply of it that's around us. And then you send it to either yourself. With Reiki, there's 3 levels of Reiki, and with Reiki 1, you can work on yourself, your friends, your family, your pets, your plants, anything that you can Reiki, your food and water, and just send this life force energy to that. And then in the higher levels of Reiki, you get into a little bit more complex healing techniques to work through emotional issues, physical issues, and spiritual things even. So it works on all the levels of our being, and it's very foolproof. So you can't really screw it up or make a mistake with it. And it's a great entry point for people who are want to be a healer, think they're, if you're a person who's feeling like maybe being a healer is part of why you're here on the planet right now, Reiki is a fantastic entry point into that. And a lot of times I find Reiki, especially the first level of Reiki, is sort of one of those potentially life-changing moments for people, because when you do Reiki, your hands get really hot.
Yeah.
And then you're like, I don't know if I believe in this energy stuff. Like, what if that's not really true? Then you put your hands on yourself or your spouse, and your spouse is like, your hands are hot. And you're like, oh my God, my hands are hot. It's sort of
Yeah.
like literally undeniable proof, literally in the palms of your own hands,
Yep.
that this energy stuff we talk about is real.
Yes. I love
And it's
it
one of
when people can experience it on that level, when it's like, oh,
yeah,
it's happening to me. Like I feel it in my body. I feel it,
yes,
in my field. Like that, you can't
feel
deny
it
it.
in my hands. You can't deny it. And there's sort of this like mind blown, moment that happens with that if that's true, what else could be true? It's again sort of one of
Right.
those like earth-shattering moments that we can have, and
It's
and
like a
Reiki has
gateway,
been,
gateway
yes,
moment.
Reiki, yoga, and meditation, the 3 gateways
Yeah.
that to this larger spiritual world. And the other thing that's so interesting about Reiki is that it opens our psychic ability. So, I wrote a book called The Art of Psychic Reiki, because I was doing psychic development and teaching Reiki, then I started doing it together because I found that studying Reiki would pop open people's psychic ability, and if they were that inclined, if they had the natural tendency for that, and then they'd have no idea what to do with it. They'd be like, now what? But if you put them together, it's another incredible tool for healers. So Reiki is an incredible tool for healers. Being able to access and tap into your psychic ability, your intuition, is also amazing for healers. So I started teaching them together, and I found that's a really sweet and beautiful combination.
Beautiful. What are some of the most I guess fun cracking open experiences that have happened for some of your students? Like you mentioned that moment with the hands and feeling the energy is like a really big one that's happened. But what are some other, I guess, just kind of fun experiences that people might be able to look forward to if they start to engage in
Yeah.
this work with you?
Oh, well, one of them, this is sort of an intense one, but it was very meaningful for me in my life, is that when my son was 5, one of his little friends got leukemia, and it was pretty serious. We weren't sure he was going to make it. So I went to visit his mom in the hospital, where they were in there for kind of the long-term cancer treatments. And while I was there, I gave her the Reiki attunements and taught her, spent maybe half an hour with her, an hour, teaching her how to do it on herself and on her child. And then I left. I came back a couple days later, and it was like a miracle. This is like a miracle, kind of, because she was doing Reiki on everyone. She's doing Reiki on her kid and on the kid in the same room as her kid, and then the mom that belongs to that other kid, and all the nurses and doctors that walked in the room, and everybody was getting Reiki from her. And it was just, she was doing it on herself, and there was such a happy, joyful vibe in the room. It went from being like, oh my God, I think my kid's gonna die and I feel hopeless and powerless to deal with that, to she had this tool that she could use, and it was just like a happy, joyful party when I went in there. And he got better, and the kid in the bed got better. I don't know if that's because of the Reiki, but I do know the Reiki had a profound effect on her and her family, and everyone else that she went on to, get through all the levels of the Reiki, and then volunteer. She still volunteers Reiki in hospitals today, so that's, to me, it's a miracle. She didn't, some of these other healing modalities, you have to go to school for 3 or 4 years if you want to be an acupuncturist, or months if you want to be a massage therapist, but we can learn Reiki really quickly, and it's not hard. Anyone can do it. It's hours, or in this case, minutes, that I taught her. That she didn't have 3 hours, 3 years to go to acupuncture school to help her situation, And to me, that's like that's the power of Reiki. It's quite amazing.
So there's all this talk about raising your vibe, and what does that even mean? It's about changing your energy. It's about learning how to manage your energy and cultivating a more positive and uplifting experience of your reality. And it requires shedding heavy energy. And once we've done that, we can become a higher vibe person who can master their reality, can master manifestation, and who will experience more joy and abundance. So if you want to experience more joy, more abundance, and attract better experiences into your life, letting you get rid of all of that stress and anxiety that most people feel, I did for a long time, the 28-day Raise Your Vibe challenge is for you. In this challenge, you'll learn how to integrate healthy routines, develop self-care rituals, find spiritual connection with the world around you, and come away with love for your entire self. Because we want you to become the most empowered person possible, and we want you to build the life that you truly desire. And you can't do that unless you work in the world of energy and implement these practices and routines and ways of living that help you get that vibe up, help you raise that frequency. And in this challenge, you'll receive 28 days of videos along with emails from me encouraging you all along the way. And at the end, you'll have the tools you need to feel lighter and continue shifting energy and raising your vibe. And the best part is that you can try your first week totally free, and then it's only $7 per week for the remaining 3 weeks. That's less than $1 per challenge. So if you want to raise your vibe, if you want to start to experience that life of joy, that life of abundance, and really start to attract the things you desire, this is for you. And of course, we always offer a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you're not 100% happy with the challenge, you're not feeling it, that's cool. We'll offer you a refund. It's totally risk-free. All of our products are, because we want you to evolve in the way that is best for you. And we want to be your support system on that journey. Wow, that's such an incredible story of like moving into a place of empowerment too, because I teach a lot about mindset, and we know now, like, we have good science behind the power of the mind to affect energy and to direct
Yeah.
energy and to shift things even in our body. And
Yes.
that to me just feels like this really like culminating moment of both, energy shifting happening, but also this like sense of empowerment that then happens
Right?
once you were able to say, like, no, you're not a victim of this circumstance. You're not powerless. Like, there are these tools that you can use. And I just love seeing those moments unfold where people step into their power and the things that can shift and happen when that occurs. It like miracles do happen.
It is a miracle.
Wild.
It is a miracle. And I love that you said that, because I don't know whether it was the Reiki or the fact that she went from feeling like there was nothing she could do to feeling like there was something she could do, or both,
Combination. Yeah.
probably. Yeah, it was probably both of those things that really shifted the scenario there. So that's kind of the exciting thing for me about Reiki, and how it really, I've just had so many people who want to believe or want, you know, but we need, and I'm kind of a skeptic too, honestly. Like, I don't know. I think being skeptical just means you're intelligent, and
Agreed.
I'm like, I'm open-minded, but I need to experience it
Yeah.
myself to truly actually believe in it. You know what I
Thank
mean?
you.
And I don't think I would believe in any of the things that I talk about, except that they've happened to me, you
Me
know?
too.
Uh, and then I'm like, okay, like, I keep an open mind. I'm a little skeptical, and then it happens, and I'm like, all right, you know. And I think that's what Reiki does, is it gives us that like experience that we can have right away that you can't deny.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I I know a lot of people are interested too in connecting, with maybe ancestors or spirits on the other side and other realms, higher intelligences. And as, people start to do some of this work and activate more of their psychic abilities, that can become a little easier for people. So do you have those sorts of moments happen with students, or is that even something that you help people with in terms of that accessing that level of, connection with other dimensions and other, consciousness out there?
You bet. You bet. And I make a little distinction between intuition and psychic.
Mm,
So intuition is like our own inner wisdom. And it's really like our connection with ourself, with our higher self. And it comes through usually like what we feel in our body, what we feel with our emotions, and what we know. Like, I don't know why I know, I just know, like that. And we're being constantly guided, I think, by our own soul, by our higher self along our pathway with our intuition. And everyone has intuition. Psychic's a little different. Psychic is when we reach outside of our own system and we're talking to sources of information that are not us. Well, what is that? That's your spirit guides, what I call them, your angels, your dead granny, your, power animals, or fairies, or these, as far as I can tell, infinite variety of spiritual beings whose job it is to assist us, who they're here to help the evolution of humanity, by providing information for, or if you're highly creative, it could be the muses, and every creative person I know has had the experience of like, oh, I didn't write that, I channeled that, or I didn't write that, music wrote me, I didn't write that,
yeah.
that, there's incredible opportunities. And most people, it's so interesting how this, I read like a Gallup poll recently. They surveyed like 6,000 people, I think, that in a mall. I think it was the Mall of America in the Midwest. And like 80% of the people copped to having a psychic experience and believing in it, a personal experience of something they couldn't explain. And then almost the same amount of people said they never told anybody.
Of course.
So because they were afraid, of being
Uh-huh.
ridiculed, or being thought crazy, or all those things we already talked about, So I just think we have this, so many people have had psychic experiences, have
Yeah.
felt the presence of spirits around them. Um, the positive ones, and maybe the not so positive spirits that hang around. We can learn So intuition is quite easy to learn. Everyone can do it. Psychic takes a little bit more fine tuning. It's a little like fine tuning the antenna,
Yeah.
to kind of really dial into those channels. And a lot of times uplifting our own
Yes.
frequency and doing the inner work that's needed. Psychics call this clearing the channel, but really I I feel that personal development and personal growth is has to be a part of the equation.
Yes.
So if you do want to develop your psychic, you've got to be ready to do some healing, some self-work, some self-examination, some shadow work, whatever, trauma recovery, like it will bring up our stuff to do the psychic development. And in my mind, that's a good thing, that's beneficial thing. But yeah, I
Oh,
think so many people have these experiences with spirits and just we're kind of like,
yeah.
but
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, that's why we wanted to do this podcast and do what we're doing, because we want to bring some normalization to the topics and help people not feel alone in those experiences. So I think so many people are, like you said, having these experiences, but they don't have someone they feel maybe totally safe with to share these
yeah,
experiences. Or our culture, especially around some of the new age, movement, has ridiculed or made it not feel so secure for people to go there and start to open up about these things. And I personally feel like we have to start having these sorts of conversations to break down those barriers and to do some of that shadow work. Like, this is also part of the shadow work, I think, for our culture and all of us as individuals, is to not shun what we've been afraid of. And it goes back to what you were initially talking about around fear, and doing that work to really understand, like, what are we afraid of here? Like, what is this bringing up for us, so that
yeah,
we can move through that ultimately and heal and transform. But then, like you said, to be able to discern and have this clear channel. We talk a lot about discernment, and when you get into this world of connecting with other intelligences, or even tuning into your intuition more, discernment is also needed in that process, right? Because all of a sudden
yeah,
you can be accessing a lot of information, and you need to understand how to integrate that in a way where it's helpful in your life.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
discernment is really important and it's difficult. So I think a lot of ways it's the most difficult thing, and it has a lot to do with our training. So this is where you need training, help, mentor, guide to help you, because there definitely are unsafe practices to do, that when you're doing psychic development, that are a bad idea. I think about sort of discernment as being like street smarts. If you know what you're doing and you have some street smarts, you can walk through any city in the world and be relative, safe.
Right.
If you don't know what you're doing, and you're doing like if you're walking down through the bad neighborhoods in the middle of the night with cash hanging out of your pockets and, a little tight little red mini dress, you might get rolled, you know what I mean? And there are definitely the psychic equivalents of that,
Right.
and a lot of them are what we see on TV. A lot of like what you see on paranormal shows, horror movies, like please God, do not play with a Ouija board. They really are a problem, and they really
Yes.
do take us to the shadowy side of the astral plane. And and a lot don't take the Ouija board to the abandoned mental hospital on Halloween on the full moon and then smoke a lot of weed before you do that. Like, don't do that.
Word to
you
the
know
wise.
don't do black magic, don't conjure demons, don't, like, there's kind of um these sort of safety things. And I think for some people, there's kind of this, I always give the analogy of like not really believing in sharks, so you're going to chum the water a lot and then jump in the water to see if sharks are real.
Right.
Like, okay, you're going to find out the hard way. And a lot of sort of
Yeah.
the paranormal, at least the media versions of paranormal activity are basically the psychic equivalent of chumming the water and then jumping in to see if sharks are real. So I think we have to, part of that discernment is like to know, to be wise, to be respectful, and to also raise our own frequency. So if you take psychic tools and you're terribly depressed and you have horrible boundaries, and maybe you can't get your vibration very high, you're going to attract spirits around because of the law of resonance. You're not really going to be able to shift yourself out of the astral plane. And a lot of newbie psychics, their first connection with guides are these astral entities, and they're a bit of a mixed bag. If you want to speak to angels, the angelic beings, or the higher level beings, you have to do the personal work. You have to do the inner growth work, the shadow work, the trauma clearing work, the boundary work, getting your energy field really strong to shift your frequency high enough to lift off out of the astral plane and hit some of these higher vibrations, which is where we really want to be. And I've just done so many cleanup sessions on people that didn't know. It's not like they have bad, intentions. They just don't know, what not to do, and really end up in a whole world of trouble.
Yeah, I was accidentally there at one point. I shared in one of our first episodes, I accidentally did what you would technically call dark magic, but I didn't know. And I wasn't doing it like with really like bad intentions, but I was just kind of dabbling in all of this from kind of a selfish standpoint. I hadn't done all my healing work yet, and you get excited about magic and what's possible. And you start dabbling before you really know what you're doing. And you just have
before you really believe it's all true. You know what I mean? Like, you don't really know what the consequences are. Or I think there's sort of like in the new phase, there's a little bit of like magical thinking around the spiritual worlds too, for people that are really new to it. Like somehow, connecting with angels is gonna take away all your problems, or that, absolve you of your personal responsibility for your life. And I've heard like the angels made me do it, justification for some really bad behavior. And that's not how it works. I should have a podcast called "That's Not How That Works," or
the angels
the psychic version of that. The angels made me do it. Like that we can't really escape the responsibility for our decisions and our karma. It doesn't go the way. And I don't know, maybe we all have to learn that the hard way. It's part of our kind of spiritual maturity or spiritual evolution. Right?
Yeah, it's like growing up. It's like as kids, like we have to go out and make all these little mistakes, and some of them are painful, but then we heal from them pretty quickly. Some of them, might be like we get into bigger trouble, and then we have to, pay the consequences of that for a while. And
and then we learn, and then we grow. That's the way it goes. And the spiritual worlds are no different. But I think street smarts is a good way. Like I've seen people really fall hard with it's all love and light in there. I'm like, it's all love and light until it isn't.
Right.
And then you've got an issue.
Well, we also we live in a universe that's programmed for duality. So the reality is that we are in a life experience that is both light and dark, and we're going to encounter those shadow moments, those parts of ourselves that are evolving, that want to evolve, that want to come into the light, and we have to be able to hold both and understand how to integrate both. And it's like when we go all into the love and light zone, it's like we're denying this other part that is there, needs to be dealt with or understood or balanced in some way.
I think it's sort of like an inner child version of psychic and spirituality, where it's sort of a phase we go through, where our inner children just really need to feel safe and believe that it's good. And, there's a good mommy and daddy looking over us and that we're safe and all that. And I get that. I have inner child days too. And if I have that, if I'm having a moment like that, I try to deal directly with that part of myself, and give myself what I really need. And especially as a healer, in all the years that I've been doing healing work, over 15,000 sessions I've done, probably actually more than that. I've seen some stuff. I've seen some stuff, and I have to kind of like, all right, really like grapple with as healers, our job is to step into the darkness. Nobody comes to my office because they're having a good day.
Right.
Nobody. I wish they would, just for a change, I'm feeling great, Lisa. Just thought I'd stop by and say hi, no problems today. That's not how it goes. So, especially if you feel like you're a healer, we have to that's why the inner work, the shadow work is so important, the trauma clearing on ourselves, because we can't really go, I can't go anywhere with my client that I haven't first been inside myself, and I've just, this was the interesting part about having to figure it all out, because I had no idea either. I had no idea, like when I started doing sessions, I was like, oh, people have real problems. Oh crap. I think I better get more training. And that's when I studied to be state therapy, because I was like, I need skills to be able to handle the things that people are bringing me. I'm like, I'm just a dumb 19-year-old who can talk to spirits. Like, I don't know what you should do about this massive thing that you brought me,
Yeah.
So that's when I studied that, and to keep, and I didn't know what I was getting into when I was doing house clearings. Someone's like, my house feels yucky, and I'm like, I can fix that. and then and then wow.
Ghostbusters with Lisa.
Oh boy, that was really, really, really educational, and really in a very painful way, really difficult. Oh, man. So, I just think that's how we go, but I'm super happy to help people sort of shortcut, these kind of like the real cringy, horrible mistakes that I made along the way that just, still make me go when I think about them. But yeah.
Well, it's like needing to attend to the whole system. We're not just, working with spirits or angels or with energy, but we're also working with the mind and the body. And we need to learn how to understand that holistic system. And I love that you went into the therapy, for that component, because I think that is missing in a lot of spiritual work at times, is really, really digging into the things that are coming up from a mindset standpoint, or thought patterns, or you talked about boundaries earlier. We get into these relational issues with people that are, perpetuating trauma cycles, and understanding how to unpack that while also working with the energy is the right approach, because then we're really addressing the holistic system.
Yeah, I think so. And especially the way that I approach it, spirituals and psychic growth it's such a rich opportunity for that kind of growth. And I just notice over and over again, every time, I should say, really it happens every time, that when people engage on this like search, the sort of spiritual quest or the psychic quest, it immediately brings up their stuff to heal. And I think that's great. It's painful. It's hard if you don't have help or you don't know what's going on. It can be really a struggle, but it's such good grist for the mill. It's, I always say as a healer, I'm still my own first and best client, and I've never stopped working on myself. I feel like, when I see other healers who stop their personal growth, their practice dries up. So we need to keep the healer that has the line out the door is the one that has done the most inner work. And so I see these as beautiful opportunities, because one of my early spiritual teachers told me that psychic development is a byproduct of spiritual growth. And his take on it was that psychic development wasn't worth doing on its own. I don't think that's true, but I see his points in a way, that when we do spiritual growth, it comes, healing abilities, psychic abilities come about as a, add-on sort of skills that we get from this general growth that we're doing. So I really like that part. I like it in myself, and I like it when it happens in my students, because I'm a healer, and I'm like, ooh, let's buckle down and deal with this. Like, let's, clear that past life, or deal with that childhood trauma, or unblock that chakra. And, I really enjoy that. And I see the incredible benefit that people have, when they come out from the other side of that.
Yeah, it's hugely transformational, and it
Yeah.
doesn't always feel good when you're going through it, because it's big work to face those
Hmm.
things and to learn from them and to grow from them. And we
Yep.
we talk about, the hero's journey, and just
Hmm.
that constant journey of, being met with different challenges and initiations. Like life is this series of initiations, and especially when you do say yes on this path, and
Yeah.
really, want to, step into, I guess, a spiritual practice or a way of being of service that is about spiritual growth. You're going to get tested, and you're going to have those challenges and those opportunities, I guess, to learn and to heal past karma come up. And that can be hard work, but it can be just so incredibly like freeing on the other side of
Yeah.
that.
Totally. Totally liberating.
Yeah.
Totally like alchemy, like that transformational stuff. And
Yeah.
I just, it's like the flip side of being a healer is that we're continually asked to do our own healing.
Yeah.
And presented with that, or even to be, even if you're not a healer, to be a spiritual seeker.
Yeah.
When you're going for that as your goal, then you will be constantly presented with these
Yeah.
the journeys to the underworld,
Yeah.
as they say in the hero's journey.
You
Um,
mentioned magic earlier, and I was thinking about that as we were just talking about this, the darker part of transformation, and how magic is possible, and you can experience, these incredible, kind of synchronicities and moments of support from the universe. But that comes from that alchemy you were just talking about,
yeah,
that willingness to go into the underworld and really like see what's there, like really see, who have you been, what have you done, what karma are you carrying, and to be willing to face that. And so it's not just this like magic pill that happens,
no,
right? It's not just a spell
it's
that you
not.
do and then all of a sudden magic's happened.
Everything's all good. Yeah. And to me, that alchemy, I love that point. And to me, that alchemy is this cycle of,
Wow.
you're on your path and then stuff comes up. And when you lean into it and you work it, you do the stuff, you go deeper. I think we need help. I think it's really hard to do it. And the deeper we
Yes.
get, the more impossible it is to do it on your own. And then you have this massive like shift, and it's painful, and you lean into it and you have a breakthrough. Then you're on the next flow of magical synchronicity signs. We kind of enter those flow states that are like the reward of that hard work, until the cycle happens again and you get triggered. I kind of see it as like a spiral.
Yes.
We go around, and each time we deal with it at a little deeper level,
Yeah.
with a little more wisdom, a little more self-compassion, hopefully. And that's to me a beautiful, journey, and really why we should do it.
Yes.
Not to just, guess lottery numbers, or, you know,
Exactly. Get the next house or whatever. Yeah.
right, exactly.
It's so funny you were bringing up that process of the spiral, and the opportunity that like circles back around. We may heal one trauma that we know is there, or one past life, and then we have these opportunities to just continue to go deeper. And this is making me want to book a session with you, because recently I did some pretty major past life excavation, I guess, and got into some pretty deep places of trauma around some past lives that were connected to one I had previously worked through. So this is like an example of that deepening process,
Yeah.
where, I had met this one trauma, done the work around it, and then boom, a couple of years later, I'm being faced with this opportunity and, relationship with others to go even deeper and to learn about these other layers that existed that I didn't even know were there.
Yeah.
And that is, and it catches you off guard sometimes, right? It's like, it's there. Like, there's
You're
always,
like, I thought I handled that issue.
yeah, it's like, it's all, you're going to continue to do that on the life journey. But yeah, it's like, it's one of those examples of that deepening process. So what Lisa's
Yeah.
talking about is true. I've just been through it, and was actually just thinking about you know, it's time. It's time to work with someone, you know, one-on-one again, as I'm going through this, you know, layer of deepening here. And so I think it's not a coincidence that we're having this conversation today.
That's awesome. I love that. And I would be
Yeah.
more than honored to facilitate that for you in
Yeah.
any way. And it's interesting too, because my specialty as a psychic is to read the level of the soul. And so I call soul readings kind of what I'm doing, because and all psychics have different gifts and tune into different levels, but my specialty is like looking at who we are at the level of the soul, what's amazing about you, what you came here to do, what obstacles are blocking you, where you've been in your past, where you're going in the future, what your life purpose is, and how your soul wants to express itself. And to me, that there's like a narrative or a story that our soul has it's so fascinating to me, and people are endlessly fascinating to me. It's like, and when you look at people from the soul level, everyone is so beautiful, so amazing. And when I do sessions, I feel like I'm sort of like unwrapping a Christmas present, and I'm like, oh my God, like look at this beautiful thing, and every session, it's quite humbling work actually. And then helping people achieve, like, we all know what's bad about us or what we think we should work on, but sometimes we forget what's good,
Yeah.
what our gifts are, and to help people remember and see that side of it is so super fun for me too. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's the balance we were just talking about, right? It's like
Right.
we've got to look at the parts we don't like as much, but then yeah, we also have to appreciate and bring in the gifts and the skills and the power that
Yeah.
we do have access to that we just forget about sometimes. So I love that you bring that into those sessions with people.
Yeah, Carolyn Mace talks about that as the light shadow.
Yeah.
So the dark shadow is like what we push into our unconscious. The light shadow is the parts of us are amazing that are amazing, our superpowers that we can't own, we don't acknowledge. We feel unworthy of living into in some way. Usually comes down to worthiness, but that's also super important to know, because we forget, and it's hard to live into your potential if you can't see that part of
Totally.
yourself.
Totally. Okay, well, we're going to book a session soon when we get off of here.
Nice. Yay.
And I'll tell the audience about how it went and do a
Oh,
follow up,
good.
so people know what my experience was like. I'd love to share that and continue to support our community in that way. And I already can tell that so many people will find the right support with you if they work with you and join your workshops or just get a session with you. I love your approach and just how holistic you are and your your understanding of how to guide someone through their awakening and those levels of, I guess, clarity about their soul. I think that's such a gift for someone to receive from someone like you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to work with you and anyone who feels inclined.
Well, and we're going to include your website and links in the show notes to this episode, so everyone can follow you on Instagram, Facebook, find your website and your books. But is there any other way that people can connect with you, or that you would advise someone to get in touch?
I think that's it. My website is lisacampion.com, and you can stop by and see what's going on there. I have all kinds of classes there. I teach Reiki online, my brand of Reiki, which is called Psychic Reiki. And I teach all psychic development classes of all levels, including professional level trainings for people who really know they want to go pro. But yeah, any of those ways, that you want to connect, any way you do it is all good.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here, Lisa. I think that's probably a good note to end on, and we can wrap up there. I just so appreciate this conversation. It came at a good time for me to remember these things. I love how we get to have these sorts of conversations almost to remind ourselves of what we already know and what we're already, navigating on our journey. And I'm just so grateful to be able to introduce you to our audience and provide you as a support system for everyone who is awakening to their abilities on their journey.
Oh, thank you so much. It's an honor to be here with you, and I look forward to seeing you in a session soon. So
Yes.
thank you so
Yes.
much.
Thank you so much, Lisa. And for everyone listening or watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of our content, and check out the show notes for Lisa's links, and go follow her, and book a session and sign up for a course. You are sure to get the support that you need. I can just tell in this conversation that Lisa's heart is in the right place, and she's our people here at Star Family Wisdom. So definitely check out her work. And Lisa, I'm so excited to stay connected with you and work with you soon.
Thank you
So
too. You too.
we'll end there and see you all next time in our next episode. Thanks for being here.